What if I told you ships didn't just sink in the Bermuda Triangle? At 3:14 p.m., the radio signal stopped. No mayday call, no explosion, no warning, just silence. The ship was carrying dozens of crew members, moving through calm waters, following a routine route used by thousands before it. But this ship never reached its destination. No wreckage was found, no bodies were recovered, and no explanation was ever confirmed. This was not an accident. This was not war. This was the Bermuda Triangle. Between myth and science, between fear and fact, there exists a region where reality itself seems to disappear. Bermuda Triangle is not marked on official maps. There are no warning signs, no vortex, no laws of nature that openly admit something is wrong. And yet, for over a century, sailors, pilots, scientists, and governments have been drawn into its mystery. A triangular region of the Atlantic Ocean, roughly between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, has become one of the most controversial places on Earth. Some say it is nothing more than coincidence. Others believe it hides one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in human history. This is not a remote corner of the world. The Bermuda Triangle sits along one of the busiest shipping and flight corridors on the planet. Every year, thousands of cargo ships pass through. Commercial airlines cross overhead. Cruise ships sail directly across it. And yet, dozens never made it through. What makes this region different is not just danger, but disappearance without evidence. Long before satellites and radar, sailors feared the open ocean. They believed in sea monsters, cursed waters, invisible forces beneath the waves. The Atlantic Ocean was especially feared, unpredictable, violent, and endless. But something about this specific region disturbed sailors more than any storm. They spoke of compasses spinning, strange lights over the water, sudden fog that swallowed entire ships. At the time, these stories were dismissed as superstition until technology arrived and the disappearances continued. Columbus, the first warning. In October 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed through what we now associate with the Bermuda Triangle. In his ship's log, he recorded something alarming. The compass was not pointing north. He also described mysterious lights rising from the ocean, then vanishing into the night sky. Centuries later, these entries would be revisited not as myths, but as early warnings. The modern age of disappearances. As ships became stronger and navigation improved, logic suggested the sea should become safer. Instead, the opposite happened. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, ships began vanishing under conditions that made no sense. Calm weather, experienced crews, fully functional vessels, no storms, no distress signals, just gone. The USS Cyclops. A turning point. March 1918, Poland, the USS Cyclops. A massive U.S. Navy cargo ship left Barbados bound for Baltimore. On board, 309 crew members, over 10,000 tons of cargo. One of the most powerful non-combat ships of its time. The weather was reported as fair. The final message sent, weather fair. Oh well. That message would be the last. The ship never arrived. No wreckage was found. No evidence of attack. No explanation. To this day, it remains the single largest unexplained loss of life in U.S. naval history. The pattern begins to form. Investigators began noticing similarities across multiple cases. Sudden radio silence. Compasses behaving erratically. Crews reporting confusion. Weather changing within minutes. It wasn't one incident, it was a pattern. And patterns demand answers. Media creates a name. In the 1950s, journalists grouped these stories together. They gave the mystery a name. The Bermuda Triangle. Books sold millions of copies. Radio shows fueled fear. Television turned mystery into spectacle. But naming it did not explain it. It only made the questions louder. The ocean does not erase ships easily. When a vessel sinks, it leaves behind something: wreckage, oil, lifeboats, broken wood, floating cargo. But in the Bermuda Triangle, ships didn't sink. They vanished. No debris fields. No distress flares. No final cries for help. Just routes that ended mid-journey. The carol adhering a silent videos. Scream. Deerine 5 Master cargo ship ran aground off the coast of North Carolina. From a distance, it appeared intact. But when rescuers boarded the ship, they found something deeply disturbing. The ship was completely empty. The crew was gone. The logbook was missing. Navigation instruments had been removed. Yet there was no sign of storm, no distress call, and no evidence of piracy. The ship had sailed directly through the Bermuda Triangle shortly before its disappearance. To this day, the fate of its crew remains unknown. A pattern that defied logic. As more cases were studied, similarities became impossible to ignore. Ships disappeared in clear weather. Crews were experienced. Routes were familiar and well-mapped. Most alarming of all, many ships sent no distress signal at all. It was as if whatever happened too fast for fear. The psychology of the sea. Some experts argued that panic played a role. That crews, confused by faulty instruments or sudden weather changes, made fatal mistakes. But this explanation failed one crucial test. Panic leaves traces. Mistakes leave evidence. The Bermuda Triangle left nothing. Insurance companies take notice. By the mid-20th century, shipping insurers quietly began charging higher premiums for routes crossing the triangle. Officially, no mystery was acknowledged. Unofficially, risk was recognized. Governments avoided dramatic statements. Shipping companies avoided publicity. But behind closed doors, concern was growing. Too many ships, too many missing crews, too much silence. The ocean without a graveyard. Normally, the sea becomes a graveyard. Wrecks sink. Debris washes ashore. Stories eventually close. But the Bermuda Triangle offered no graves. Only unanswered questions. And the deeper investigators looked, the more disturbing the pattern became. Because ships were not the only things disappearing. The ocean hides its secrets beneath the surface. The sky does not. When a plane goes down, wreckage usually falls somewhere. Radar tracks a descent. Radio captures a final message. But over the Bermuda Triangle, planes didn't crash. They vanished. Mid-air, mid-sentence, mid-mission, and that changed everything. The first warning signs in the air. In the early days of aviation, pilots trusted three things above all else: their instruments, their training, their sense of direction. Over the Bermuda Triangle, all three began to fail. Pilots reported compasses spinning without reason, radios filled with static. The horizon itself seemed to disappear. Some described the sensation of flying inside a tunnel. Others said the sky turned white, as if wrapped in fog that wasn't really fog at all. Then silence. Flight 19, the mission that never ended. December 5th, 1945, 5 U.S. Navy training aircraft took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The mission was routine, a navigation exercise, clear skies, calm seas. The pilots were experienced, including the flight leader, a decorated combat veteran. Nothing about the day suggested danger until the radios came alive. The voices from the cockpit. Shortly after entering the training area, confusion set in. The flight leader reported that his compass was malfunctioning. Then another pilot reported the same. Soon, all 5 aircraft were experiencing navigational failure. The radio transmissions became increasingly tense. The pilots could not agree on their position. The ocean below looked unfamiliar. Even the sun seemed wrong. One voice said, "Everything looks strange. Even the ocean," another reported, "were completely lost." These were not panicked amateurs. These were trained military pilots. The final transmission, as fuel levels dropped. The situation worsened. The flight leader's voice grew uncertain. He believed they were over the Florida Keys. But ground control knew that was impossible. Then came the last confirmed message. "We're entering white water. Nothing seems right." And then, silence. 5 planes, 14 men, gone. The search that found nothing. The U.S. Navy launched an immediate search operation. Hundreds of ships, dozens of aircraft. The search covered thousands of square miles. Not a single piece of wreckage was found. Not one body, as if the planes had been erased from the sky. The rescue plane that disappeared. Then, something even more disturbing happened. A rescue aircraft was sent to search for Flight 19. It took off, reported normal conditions, and then, that plane also vanished. The crew of a nearby ship reported seeing an explosion in the sky. But no debris was ever recovered. The official explanation was unclear. 2 aircraft groups lost in the same region. On the same day. Civilization planes follow. Flight 19 was not the end. In the decades that followed, civilian aircraft began disappearing under similar circumstances. Small passenger planes, cargo aircraft, private flights. Pilots reported instrument failure, sudden weather changes, loss of radio contact, and then nothing. Families waited, airports checked schedules, authorities searched, but the sky gave no answers. The radar problem. One of the most troubling aspects was radar. In several cases, planes were visible on radar screens. Until they weren't. No descent. No deviation. Just a sudden disappearance. Radar operators had no explanation. Technology had failed to explain what human eyes could not see. The fear spreads. By the 1960s, pilots began avoiding the region whenever possible. Some refused assignments. Others reported feeling uneasy the moment they entered the triangle. Not because of superstition, but because of history. Too many planes, too many lost voices, too much silence. Transition towards science. At this point, the mystery demanded answers beyond fear. Governments needed explanations. Scientists needed data. The public needed reassurance. Was this a paranormal zone? Or was nature hiding something far more powerful? Shift in tone. Mysteries invite imagination. But imagination alone is not enough. When ships vanish and planes disappear, fear demands answers. And answers must come from science. For decades, researchers, meteorologists, oceanographers, and navigation experts have tried to explain what really happens inside the Bermuda Triangle. Not with myths, but with data, the weather that changes without warning. The Atlantic Ocean is alive. Warm tropical air rises rapidly. Cold fronts move in fast. Storms can form within minutes. The Bermuda Triangle sits at a critical intersection of powerful weather systems. Sudden storms in this region are not slow or predictable. They appear quickly, they intensify violently, and they vanish just as fast. Ships caught in these storms have little time to react. Planes flying overhead can encounter extreme turbulence without radar detecting danger in advance. To an unprepared crew, it can feel supernatural, but nature does not warn twice. Rogue waves walls of water. For centuries, sailors spoke of massive waves that rose from nowhere. These stories were dismissed as exaggeration, until satellites confirmed their existence. Rogue waves, walls of water over 100 feet tall, can form suddenly in the Atlantic. A modern cargo ship, no matter how advanced, can be destroyed within seconds if hit at the wrong angle. The ship would sink quickly, and if the wreckage falls into deep ocean trenches, it may never be found. The depths below, the seafloor beneath the Bermuda Triangle, is not flat. It drops suddenly into deep underwater canyons. Wreckage that sinks here doesn't drift toward land. It falls straight down, and where recovery is nearly impossible. Magnetic anomalies, the compass question. One of the most famous claims involves compasses behaving strangely. Some scientists point to magnetic variation. Most places on Earth have a difference between true north and magnetic north. The Bermuda Triangle lies near a zone where that difference can be confusing, especially for older navigation equipment. A small miscalculation can send a ship or plane off course. Over hours, that mistake grows. By the time crews realize they are lost, fuel is gone, land is nowhere, and panic takes over. Methane gas, the ocean breathing. Another theory focuses on methane gas trapped beneath the seafloor under certain conditions. Large amounts of methane can suddenly rise to the surface. This can reduce water density. A ship floating above such a release could lose buoyancy almost instantly. It wouldn't capsize. It would drop straight down without time to send a distress signal. While this theory remains debated, laboratory simulations have shown it is physically possible. Human error, the uncomfortable truth. Not all explanations are dramatic. Some are simply human. Fatigue, overconfidence, navigation mistakes. The Bermuda Triangle is heavily trafficked. More traffic means more accidents, and accidents create stories. Stories grow, stories merge, and eventually, a legend is born. Why science doesn't fully satisfy. Despite all these explanations, something remains unresolved. Science explains how accidents could happen, but not always why they happen without evidence. Why no debris? Why no signals? Why the patterns? Science reduces fear, but it is not erase doubt. The battle between reason and belief. For every scientific explanation, There's a question science cannot fully answer. And where certainty ends, belief begins. This is where the Bermuda Triangle becomes more than geography. It becomes a mirror, reflecting what humans fear most: loss of control, loss of direction, loss of explanation. Atlantis, the lost civilization. Some theories go back even further, to the ancient legend of Atlantis, a technologically advanced civilization, swallowed by the ocean. Believers suggest remnants of its energy still exist beneath the triangle. Crystals, power sources, technology, far beyond its time. No evidence has confirmed this, but the myth refuses to die, because humans are drawn to lost worlds. And the sea keeps its secrets well. The power of media and fear. The Bermuda Triangle did not become famous through science. It became famous through stories. Books, films, television. Each disappearance added drama. Each theory added fear. Over time, separate incidents merged into one narrative, and the mystery grew larger than reality. Sometimes, fear doesn't need truth. It only needs repetition. The human mind as the final answer. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not the triangle, but us. Humans fear what they cannot control. The ocean represents chaos. The sky represents freedom. When both fail us, we search for meaning. The Bermuda Triangle may not be a doorway to another world. It may be a mirror reflecting our need for explanation. The truth that remains. Today, planes cross the Bermuda Triangle safely. Ships pass through without incident. Satellites watch from above. And yet, the mystery survives, but not because it is unsolved, but because it is unforgettable. Some say the Bermuda Triangle is a myth. Others say is misunderstood science. But one thing is certain. For every ship that vanished, for every voice that went silent, for every journey that never ended, the ocean never explained itself, and maybe it never will. End of video. The Bermuda Triangle is not just a place on the map. It is a question, and some questions are meant to remain unanswered